All right, it's a test stream, just the test opening bits for the channel update. If you're watching the VOD of this, skip ahead a couple minutes. Just waiting for people to get on board here. Including me. I always like to go to the tab and see. It's even called channel update stream, I think.
Nice.
No one's here. No one cares.
Uh-oh.
That's fine. One watching. All right, welcome.
Welcome.
Party's on. It's me, Get Dave, and with me is Mrs. Get Dave.
Hello.
Do you like going by that? Would you rather go by Nessapop?
It's fine.
Do you feel
It's fine.
like an accessory to me? Get Dave's home. Like is it? We don't have to talk about. We don't have to talk about
I
this
hadn't
on
really
camera.
thought about it.
Yeah, we'll have a women's rights argument on the.
Oh yeah.
On stream. Yeah, and then go to bed.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Well, when I said it, there was no one here.
Back when it was cool. Now it's mainstream.
Now it's mainstream because there's 10 watching now. Yeah, that's the stream light coming for you.
Oh no. Stream relationship arguments happen when we play certain games.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze.
Yeah, well, it's usually because you're just being unreasonable. Just calm down.
Yeah. Voice is kind of low.
Voice is kind of low. You know what?
My voice or his voice?
What if I do this? That may work.
Fighting on channel update stream would be kind of cool. Says someone who has never been around.
What if I told you we both played sports?
Yeah. We're both very competitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
They say both of us are quiet.
Okay.
I got my system volume and YouTube maxed.
All right. I've increased the gain on the mic. Yeah, this is tricky. The different recording software is different. There's a pearl of wisdom for you. All right, well, wait a minute until we get it right. On my end, I don't know. I'll crank it a little bit more.
I feel like that's always...
Can you hear me now? How about now? Is that any good?
That was pretty good.
I don't think you should talk like that the entire channel update.
No one tells me what to do. I'm gonna talk like this the whole time.
It's a horrible ASMR thing.
I think
and
really,
I just realized I need to plug in the controller here.
That'd be really creepy if you gave the update like that.
Yeah.
If you talked very close like this.
Some people are into that.
Really?
Oh. Hey everyone, I just plugged in a controller. Scared the hell out of me. All right. Maybe that's coming too.
Oh.
All right. We'll do channel stuff first, which is FF7 Remake. I've recorded almost to the end of it, so it's going to be done in, I don't know, the next week or two, I think. Sleep paralysis demon.
If you move a click.
So that's good. If you open your eyes up. Anyway.
Oh, okay, let's just stop.
Yeah.
Actually,
you don't want the
story.
people who are into that. You do not want them on your channel.
No. Side story, he does think scaring people in the dark is really funny, though.
Not people.
Me. So one time,
It's
a long time ago.
Oh, you're going to tell that. All right.
When we were first dating, I went to the bathroom and I came out and all the lights were out and the bathroom was kind of at the top of the stairs, but you had hidden. Were you in the doorway?
I was immediately in front of the door, but crouching.
Yeah,
so
crouching,
you opened the door and didn't see me for a second.
And then he goes from crouching to standing, but with this horrible ring wraith. You shouldn't do it. People will hate it in their headphones. Anyways, a horrible ring wraith sound in the dark, and I almost peed my pants. It was very scary.
Yeah. Well, because so up to that point, you had maintained that you couldn't get embarrassed.
No, I never said that.
You said I don't get it.
How naive
I have never been
was.
embarrassed, and that you can't scare me. And I was like, I will have both of these done before the sun sets.
I think I was embarrassed of my reaction too.
Yeah, and we went down that one water slide, and
Oh.
at the end you were like, "Man, Dave, you were screaming. And it was like really high pitched. You screamed
in
like a girl."
It was one of those ones where you're like 3-person on a raft and you're just going up and back and up and back, like half pipe style until you
Yeah.
slow down.
And at the end you were like,
No,
"I don't remember."
No.
And you thought I was screaming.
No, I didn't think you were screaming. I was like, who was screaming the whole time that we were on the raft? And then it was me.
Yeah, that was you having an out of body or experience. Yeah, don't do those things, but I mean, it kind of
Oh yeah. Okay.
depends.
Anyways, back onto what we're doing.
Yeah, channel
FF7.
update. FF7 remake's going to be done in the next week or two, and then I'm thinking of Chrono Cross. But if you want something else, post it in the comments section. Yeah, we'll have to see.
A request for your thoughts about the FF7 remake after the fact.
No, we're not talking about that right now. How do you not realize you're screaming? Terror. by the way.
It seriously was like an out of body experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't do well with
Heights.
roller coasters or heights. Okay, it seems like people like Chrono Cross.
Klingon Academy. That's a game.
Yeah, because there's Starfleet Academy. Darcy's been pushing this for a long
Really?
time, and
Huh.
he alone will not heal. He battles.
Okay.
I don't not want to do it, but
I just didn't know it exists, and so I was a little shocked.
with his evil and army, man, getting an evil army in the first ogre battle is shockingly easy. I know it has Christopher Plummer in it. I'm not gonna try Star Citizen because like I tried and I wanted it to work again, but like that game is in alpha. Like they updated it and forgot to put the launch button in the launcher for one of the updates. It like after the update occurred, it didn't draw the launch button, so you couldn't launch the game. Like that is the least of my frustrations, but that one was a tough one.
Votes for Okami and Ori and the Blind Forest.
Oh,
No, Golden Sun.
Okami I've never played, but I want to check out. Yeah, Golden Sun I've gotten a trickle of requests for over the Freelancer I would like to check out, but with a game like that I feel like I should be good at it first. I think I bought it on Steam though. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I can't think of any other channel stuff. The FF7 remake, we will talk about the ending when we get to the ending. I started writing. I opened a Word document and started writing stuff down, and the floodgates opened, and then I started coming around to acceptance, and I've oscillated.
And then you had to go for a walk.
Oh my goodness! I went out to the garage to stick handle a hockey ball.
Hockey.
It's uh-oh.
Yeah.
Some bigs going down.
Uh-huh.
That's all I can think of for now. That's what happened with the channel. Whenever there's a Let's Play that's going on, it's sort of smooth. And then I always get a sense of panic is too strong a word, but you get into the routine of recording a specific game and you get into the rhythm of playing it and feeling the story and learning the game. And then it's just over. You're like, what do? I forget how to start a new Let's Play series. How do I hook up the cables for this one? Yeah.
Yeah. What are the controls? How do I fly the ship?
Yeah. I mean, with Chrono Cross, that could be a constraint because we're going to have an emulation barrier. I am looking at the copy of it on my shelf right now, but
Golden Sun is kind of like an older Dragon Quest game, but swap puns for puzzles solved using your magic.
I've heard good things, Kale.
That sounds interesting. I do like puzzles, which is why I like Zelda. Anyways, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it gives I'm getting a Lufia 2 vibe from it. IPs I would buy. Breath of Fire and Lufia. Capcom doesn't sell IPs though. Anyway, moving on. Natsume does. This is Project Reyna, current build. I don't know if it's too loud. You guys let me know if her jumps are rattling your eardrums. But yeah, last time I showed a little bit about what's going on in it. This is the debug area. This is not the game. This is where I test out everything because, like, let's say I invent the thing where she can pull herself up onto a ledge, and then I invent the roll, and one breaks the other. We go through a regression testing playthrough of this area.
Perfect.
What about another FF4 let's play? Like of the randomizer? I don't know, we'll see. We've moved on. Put it in the comment section. So I was showing you, like, yeah, these are just like different concepts for areas. Testing out the different artifacts you can get in the game. So, and that is actually a test. The health file pickup is inconsequential, although we do have 21 health. That's just testing out what if I queued 2 items into one thing to the menu prompts appear sequentially. This is going to be like very debuggy because, again, it's like the debugging biome.
Did you mention that it's a build?
Yeah, this is a full build. You can see in the bottom corner, like, this is running in an executable that you can run on different computers and everything. Like,
it was exciting when you brought it up to run on my computer.
Yeah, that was the first test. Anyway, we've all seen this before, so I'm going to cut ahead a bit. I wanted to show some of the more advanced movement in this. Do any of the jumping surfaces have slight bounce? No. Like, I don't know exactly how you mean. Like, you hit it and would bounce off like it's a trampoline, or say bamboo flooring style, like you go to take off and like there's a little extra kick from it. Is the marble texture main game? Yeah, we'll say yes. Not varied enough though. Yeah, that could be remedied by increasing the size of the texture. Something like this, like there's some quirks here because that was an experimental error or area where I was trying new things, and like the flooring doesn't match. You'll note that might actually be painted onto terrain. But I think around here is when we left off last time. So can't open that because I don't have the key card for it. So we try that out. All right, this is where we have cutscenes. I'm just gonna skip through them. This is like testing out, like, hey, can we move things around? You can see some of the art from Leandro Franci. Some of the enemies.
How did you introduce that last time?
I think that's right around where we cut off. They've seen it though.
Oh, okay.
And some enemies, don't worry about them. And don't worry about this one. You're gonna hear a couple sounds.
Yeah.
That's just experimenting with, her taking damage through a script and everything. And this is like, dialogue can appear without a cutscene. So we're just cutting through that. And then this is, technically that's the test for the skip cutscene thing. So it's certainly a game. What I want to show you is going to be a little bit later on. Again, none of this is super remarkable, but you want to know what I've been working on?
It takes a lot to get a lot of this stuff in place.
Yeah. Go for a little journey over here. I typically hate water levels, but if you've seen the footage of Get David's face online, when I showed it to Towelman, he remarked about it right away. He's like, "You put a water level in your game."
Really?
Yeah, because in the thing we made, that was a point of discussion. A little bit too much bounce on that. I'll get to that. Yeah, the water I'm pretty happy with. I like the feel of when she goes underwater. All right. Here's where it's going to start getting interesting. You've seen, like, yeah, there's water. There's all those basic things. Any drowning music plans? Drowning, quieting, and vignette. Oh, the escapist bid. Could have been anything. All right. So if you've watched the channel updates for a long time, I put a lot of work into movement. The movement code and just all sorts of stuff underlying that I redid over and over because how a game feels when you play it is really important to me. And so now we're going to get to the beginning of that. Also, one of the big things is like Reyna is not some big, powerful character. She's not stronger than any of her adversaries. She's not particularly talented at it. But what she is good at moving. And so
Which
we have
I think
all these.
comes with a smaller size.
Yep.
If you've ever played sports.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to move. If you're going to be Steph Curry's size, then you got to. Well, you have to play guard. So this is going to be like familiar to anyone who's played like Celeste or a Mega Man game or anything. The controls are really heavily based on Mega Man X1 and 2 in particular. And then we get to this sort of stuff where, okay, we combine grabbing and dashing in the air to move around. Again, nothing super remarkable, but I put a lot of effort into like having it so we could link them together really smoothly.
Remember when
So
you
that
made me
there's-
play this?
Pardon me?
Like right around here.
Yeah.
I'm not a platformer.
One of my
and I find them really stressful.
well, and like all the items get introduced like all in a
That's
cluster
true.
here.
Okay, I
So
should
you
give
have to,
myself.
like-
I should give myself a break.
Yeah. So
You're like, just use this button and this one and this one and this one. I'm like, I can't remember.
yeah. And this is also not the order you would get the artifacts in the game, or nearly the spacing. Yeah, Guacamelee, I think they handle the walls and jumping off the walls similarly, although you can run up them in this, which is a big deal. And then they have the attacks that go off before. These are not attacks, they're just dashes. I did think about having them be attacks, and like the code's there, but not in effect. This is one of the last. Yeah, the scarf loses charge when it's uncharged. It loses its color, and then the glow sort of flares back when you hit the ground. The first artifact you get in the game is a sword, which we're not going to show today, but that'd be the first one, which allows her to fight, because there's a strong combat opinion focus in the game as well. And yeah, I have my opinions on how a lot of games handle combat, which I think is very stationary, very slow, and not super action packed. Like, people think of games like Bayonetta or Devil May Cry as really good action games, and I feel like that should be the standard. Whereas they're seen as like the excellent thing, and those games still feature a lot of like standing still, mashing 100 combos, and then jumping over here and standing still. Bayonetta is pretty good about keeping you moving, but like, I think like your attack should be part of your movement.
Like
Everything should be part of
Kingdom
your
Hearts.
movement. Pardon
Like
me?
Kingdom Hearts has lots of aerial.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts has good floaty combat,
Yeah.
and the second one in particular is like really good. However, I would argue the enemies are either really squishy or you cut down them too quickly, and there's like you're not in the middle zone that's just right for a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It might be I just play under level, but it seems like you're not there. You're sort of like a little bit behind that for a lot of the time. That said, there's some really good fights in that. Like the Larxian fight is amazing. Okay, Reyna can't make that jump. She wipes out, hits the rocks, respawns. There's reasons why she respawns like that, but you gotta play the game to find out the story. The story is actually a super big emphasis for it as well. That's all I'll say. When the trailer drops, you'll find out what I want to reveal about that, and you'll see the actual game area and that sort of stuff. I think this is kind of an original idea. Games have done stuff like this, but I don't know. It's like the composition and all the little nuances of how I'm using it, I think, are cool. This is the repulsor. It pushes stuff away from her. It also means she can kind of float. So this sort of ties in multiple power-ups you'd see in Mega Man games and like a defensive aspect of it. So like in 20 XDX and in some of the Mega Man games, you get a hover. She's got that. We can combine it with our other things to do that. And then traverse through more difficult areas. It also, as mentioned, is primarily defensive. So like that thing's shooting at her. It'll deflect the bullets away. And if we go over here, get a laser beam, bounce that thing away. And this enables like puzzles where like, hey, you can be bending laser beams around your body to direct them where they need to go. You know, you can basically do like a mirror puzzle, but instead about making it like bouncing light beams off the mirrors, you can make it refracting the light off of yourself. And then the last one I'm going to show here is our friend the Spider Grip. Yeah, the Xenogears is hugging her back. That was an inspiration. The idea is that like, you can see it on her back now. She didn't have it at the start, or the scarf, or any of the other stuff. You can see the four things, and like that's getting emitted from it if you look really closely. And as I've said, like the sword is the first artifact you get. Every single one of these extends your ability to fight in some way. And like the idea is you're weaving all of these together. And I also wanted to be a bit like the guitar where like, you know, you can pick it up and learn something very quickly. So, you know, you could just use like a 3-hit fighting combo and that sort of stuff and keep it simple. Or you could, weave all of these things, and there's a pretty high limit. And for me, like self-expression through play is a big thing. So like if you want to be like, my go-to thing is like going aerial to ground, then that's your thing. If you just want to mash, that's your thing. Like, yeah.
Can I up my Patreon and then you email me executable?
No.
I love that you asked.
But I'm flattered.
Any plans for a Steam release?
Yes. Yeah.
That's what we're going to do first.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
But yeah, there is a Steam store page already. It's not public though, and that's going to roll out with the trailer and just like the launch announcement and everything, which will be I'm really trying to get it for the end of July. It's probably over ambitious.
To me.
Yeah.
I've never heard an actual date.
Yeah. By the way, I took
Good
the
thing I
music
came
out
to
for the
this
trailer
room.
or for this.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Because it would have just played
'Cause it's
over
in
and over
flux.
and over and over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't work.
It's in flux and everything.
It's fine.
I
like secrets.
Yeah, secrets are good. So here we can't dash up, and we picked up something called the Spider Grip. So what that does is it reaches and grabs something and pulls Reina towards it, or rather, it pulls. If that something is light, it just gets pulled. If that something's roughly the same weight as her, they get pulled towards each other. And if that something's immovable, oh yeah, those are debug blocks. So yeah, that's showing the scale of the game. So yeah, she can use that.
July for the trailer, not for the actual release.
Yeah, actual release is planned for late 2020. So yeah, you can see this is like beyond what she could get by with the glove, but by pulling herself closer to the wall, she can do that and work nicely. And then switch to open a door, nothing fancy, but then that one she can't reach, but if you use the Spider Grip, you can grab it.
Puzzles.
Yeah, and so like you're seeing the ingredients that we're going to use for little incidental puzzles, which will probably be for tiny things like health pickups and all that. Well, probably are. Some on the main path, but yeah, I like how it was mostly handled in Metroid Zero Mission, where the main path is more of a routing problem, and in this game, I will say, given the story that examines like cause and effect.
It's a routing problem.
Yeah, I talked about in the other one. There's an interesting routing problem, and I think unlike anything you
shouldn't say anymore.
Well, like, are you aware of any other game that kind of does the thing?
Not really.
Not really. Yeah, yeah. You might see elements of other stuff.
How many get David points will the game cost? Because I have roughly 11
million saved up. It will cost you 100 get Dave points and probably around $20 as well. The spider grip doesn't lose charge. No, you can use that thing indefinitely. If you want to use it on an enemy, like you can throw enemies, some of them, by grabbing them. So you need the Ascension Glove for that. You can close on them with the spider grip, and then she uses the repulsor to throw. So it's like the different combinations of artifact. Every single combo has a new ability associated with it as well. Like I spent a lot of time trying to get all these things so that there was like, I don't know, so that two people could play completely different ways and have both be viable.
Which was totally inspired by how we play.
Yeah, and actually a lot of it is also inspired by something Trihex, who's a speedrunner, said in passing about Yoshi's Island, which was this game with a lot of self-expression in it. And he was just talking about like the different ways you can bounce eggs and like get the angles, how you want them and everything. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about how I like to play Mega Man X, because a lot of people know in Mario games you hold the run button. Mm-hmm. But similarly related to that, but people don't do it as much as in Mega Man games, you pump that dash button like crazy. Mm-hmm. If you beat this game, how many GDP do we get? Depends if you get the good ending or not. Mm-hmm. For that ending, you get absolutely 0.
Not negative.
Yeah, there's a case. There's a case to be made that should be a negative infinity. Yeah, anyway, that's all I wanted to show today. So like, I know the first part was kind of dull because we'd already seen it, and a lot of it's like, yeah, this is how I test things. If you're interested in how the sausage gets made though, like, yeah, that's every time I build something new, I run it, or I should. Is it like a Mass Effect 2 good ending? So I mentioned this in the one where I was talking about story, but I'm going to use a term. I want you not to associate it with the things you'd associate with it. But I think a lot about this concept of a golden path. And yeah, the Mass Effect series we did, that involved one interpretation of it. I don't want to spoil what happened, but what happened, right?
Yeah, whatever happened.
It is what it is, and what happened.
I think we can all agree.
Yeah, we can all agree on that. In this one, and in Dune, it also represents something, I guess, not quote bad, but unpleasant. But in life, I think about like, you know, if you're trying to do something difficult, the bobbing and weaving you have to do. You know, if you want to quit your job and make your own game.
Yeah.
You know, or try doing it without quitting the job and then realize like, yeah, that's not going to work. So yeah, like all these obstacles you're trying to weave around, and like this chain of cause and effect you're trying to create. So the game is this examination of cause and effect, and how do you create a golden path for yourself. Yeah, consequence and suffering. Yeah. What about the yellow brick road instead? I'm not a fan. Yeah.
It's a really weird story.
Oh, I don't mind the story. The yellow brick road is this concept that it's like fixed though. Like, oh, that's how you get to Oz. Who, as it turns out, is a joke.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, the golden path is more like this miserable road you have to travel. But, you know, that's the only way. There's only the golden path. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted you to sort of see what I was working on with the game. Next time I'll show combat, and then after that it'll probably be the trailer dropping.
Can I say my update about music?
Oh yeah.
Do you want to talk about really, really hard?
Yeah.
Like really hard.
Did any event shut down the studio?
Yes,
the recording
a
studio?
Certain Backstreet Boys reunion tour shut. That was a reference to how
that was a separate stream.
Yes, now I'm explaining it.
Yeah.
Game Grumps, right?
Yeah.
Is always talking about how a certain world event is the Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
Because you get demonetized if you say the term.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a certain Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
Shut down our recording studio before the soundtrack was finished.
Yeah, and it wasn't mastered and mixed, and well, we didn't.
It was partly done.
It was partly done.
Almost all the recording
Like
was
the
done.
comping was done, but not a lot of the other stuff.
Yeah. And we had we had about 90% recorded. But there was some stuff that was going to be redone and
Now we have to figure out a way around it. Anyways, so my task has been to learn both Pro Tools and Ableton Live. Whew. So yeah. But how many songs are actually done? Like 11.
How many got the D?
Yeah. The D of approval.
Yeah. Write a D if Dave approved it.
Yes. It was my shorthand that you really embraced.
Yeah.
I think
around
11.
a dozen out of about 30.
Yes. So,
And that's a process that's just been started in the last like 6 weeks.
yeah, though a lot of the framework for that had started before that. Like actually really finishing stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's been going super well given the circumstances. Yeah.
Lots of tutorials and searching random things. But it's exciting.
Yeah. A couple of people are salty about the gag order thing. It's not exactly a gag order. It's just like they don't want misinformation to spread. And so at first it was they were just shutting down everything that wasn't from government channels. And now it's just like, if you're not like gonna give really sound good advice, don't go near it is basically where it's at right now. You can technically do it.
My advice,
it'd be like talking about any hot topic thing.
My advice would be to plan and have a good game and a good book and a good other project to have right now.
Yeah.
That's my sound advice.
And some way of maintaining human contact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Including going out and yelling at your neighbors.
Yeah.
Like in a friendly way, not like a mean way.
Yeah, it's like, I told you to get out of here.
No, I mean like you're on the sidewalk and I'm on my front porch.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, music stuff's been going well. You've been continuously improving it.
Yep.
Which is like, honestly, that's a big reason stuff's taken so long because...
What? The music is the only reason?
No, that's not what I'm trying to say. Like just the act of continuously improving it, right?
Yes.
Like even like when I played Celeste, I was under the impression that like you had punchy controls or smooth controls. And like Mega Man X4 is punchy, Mega Man X1, 2, and 3, especially 1 and 2 are smooth. And then Celeste found a way to make it both. And so it's like, okay, well, I got to redo my game because my Reina has to move around as good or better than that. That's what the new standard is.
Well, and it's the concept of you always say it, like reiterating on your work.
Yeah. If your first draft's probably going to be garbage relative to what you could do by like reiterating it on it a few times. And so that's sort of happens with music. Which is, of course,
a really fun thing to hear when you just want to be done.
It's approved. Just kidding.
Actually,
I heard the bass could be better.
Could you please amp up the bass?
Yeah.
Yes. Let's go buy a virtual synth. That will help us with that.
Yeah. And it did.
It did. Yes.
This is not hypothetical.
This just happened.
That was yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was 83% off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
It was nice.
It helps the exchange rate.
Yeah. Anyway, this is the stuff that's going on. I think, like, I don't know if you guys watch the channel, so you know roughly what I'm into and the stuff I think is really good. And I have tried to create a game that, like, encapsulates everything I think is good. Yeah, like what I think the right thing to do is, and that's always limited by your creative ability, but. Yeah, I don't know.
Thank goodness
I think
we
it's
have
special.
Friends and other people we've met to draw upon. Too.
Yes.
So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm making something special. So I've shown you a little bit of it. There's more to show. On the other side of this door is the pickup for the sword, which would be the first power-up you get, like I mentioned, and that's introduced in the combat. I put a ton of effort into it in the last couple weeks, actually. I think it was not this past week, but the week before. I spent the entire week just like working on the attacks again and just like refining it over and over and over. And right, I've been having a first draft versus reworking arguments. Oh man, yeah, you can't be precious. Well, we were talking about Mass Effect 3 and like George Lucas's problems with the prequel trilogy and everything. And it's like most of those stemmed from someone being precious. If you take Star Wars Episode 3, this is like one of my favorite anecdotes, but the scene where Anakin and Padme talk had one draft. That you are so beautiful. Oh, because I'm so in love. That's one draft. He did 9 rewrites of the scene where Palpatine and Anakin watched the space opera thing. Where he's like...
Funny side note, you've never actually... Well, I've never seen the prequel trilogy. I saw the abridged Get Dave version where he was like, okay, wait, watch this like 4 minutes. Okay, now let's fast forward. Now this 8 minutes over here.
Okay, Anakin and Padme are talking.
And this, okay, and now this will all make sense. And now we can watch 4, 5, 6.
Yep.
So, and I've never seen the actual full length ones now.
Well, one of the best scenes is like, did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis? And he does a really good job of like, you know, introducing a subject, but then not finishing talking about it because that would be pushing too hard, and then changing the subject. And there's some good nuance. Mm-hmm. That's what 8 rewrites gets you.
I want to get to this question. With making a game, are you prepared for the notion of developing a personal following that you might gather if it gets very popular?
Cross that bridge when we get to it. Right now I'm hoping to get more than one person who doesn't follow the channel to buy the game.
Or who is not related to us.
Yeah. Mom, I know you've never watched one of my videos, and I know you don't play video games, but this is $20 and you don't have a Steam account. So if you sign up for that, that also really helps the game out, bumps the algorithm.
Yeah. That would be super. But I was just also going to say, we're pretty not on social media, so that would be pretty funny anyways.
Yeah, I'm more afraid of like... Well, I mean, you get paranoid about all sorts of things, right? When you get Dave making the next Undertale you're to hear. We'll see. I don't want those fans. The Undertale following, it can be a little too aggressive. You know, I like that. Like the subscribers I have on the channel are basically the exact sort of people I'd like to have. Oh, if you were that's the dream. Like, okay, here's an interesting thought. I think
what is the dream? You have to like verbalize that more because you just
that's where I'm going.
Okay.
You know, how do you define success is always really complicated, and a lot of people are like, for me, a big part of it is a game I'm happy with. Like, I would play this. I think this is a good game, and I think this is
you'd want to
in the ballpark of the best I could make. At some point, you have to say no.
And you'd want to being not cocky. Like it would want to be something that you'd want to recommend to people.
Yeah,
right.
That I think
I also read.
This is good.
We were also talking one time about how should you only keep books that you would lend out to somebody else as your. Yeah, so if that's your criteria,
the ones you never get back.
Yes. Yeah. Anyways, if you're happy with it, that's one criteria.
Yeah, and then financial success is a big part of it. Is like, can you make another game?
That would be the dream.
Can you pay off all the loans you've given to the company in its development? Because that's a good benchmark of if you had been paying yourself, would it have been profitable?
Right.
So like those are the financial ones, and then it's like, would someone ever cosplay a character? Would someone ever draw a character? Would someone ever say like, hey, the story meant a lot to me, like I was going through a hard time, and like, because like I wrote the story as this very strong metaphor. You know, Tolkien said he hated that, but I mean, it's that's all I'll say. So it's, you know, do you find out that it had meaning to other people?
Yes.
And you don't have control over that per se. So some might say it's silly to like derive I don't know, self-worth
Exactly.
or personal satisfaction from that. But at the same time, you don't release art to the public. Like, I'm not making a game and just playing it by myself. I mean, technically that's what I've been largely doing for the last however long, but the goal is to
We
not
won't
do
say
that
how
one day.
long.
Actually, Gabe Grubbs had an interesting discussion about this regarding music, because they're like, some people who are more principled might be like, oh no, we're all about the music, we're just all about the art. But it's like,
Like
well,
for a game?
well, for music they were
Oh.
talking about, just for
As in
as
art.
musicians.
Yeah. Mhm.
But it's like, well, but you're in a band and you want to perform for people and you want people to hear your music. So no, you're not. You're not some guy or some group of guys jamming in a loft. Like, you're trying to perform it. So you do care about the commercial side, and you do care about the reception and other people
Yeah.
deriving meaning from it. So yeah, that's part of it. And
I would
that's the
also-
scary part, right? Because like, you always wonder if like Twitter mobs are like, there's offensive undertones, and you're like, oh no, I just made a metaphor for like the Trail of Tears or something. Like, you don't know.
How did we not see that it looked like a private part?
Yeah. Oh, I've had that. Yeah.
That's more of a design.
That came up in
discussion,
the
though.
Dragon Quest Builders thing
Oh.
we did. It's like, does that look like a dick? I don't think so. I think we're good, everybody. I think that just looks like a tower.
Great.
Yeah. But I mean, you do the quick sanity check.
Yeah. I feel like in terms of music, I would hope that it would mean something.
Yeah.
I think
So-
that's-
We'll see, right? So back to your original question, you know, what if I liked it enough for it to spread it with people by word of mouth? It's like, yeah, that would 100%
that's a huge compliment.
be a metric of success, and yeah, that's the dream. Like, that's part of it.
Mhm.
So
Will there be a let's play of it? Kind of like a director watching the movie with the director.
everybody asks me that.
But I feel like you'd have to maybe get Talman in and play it. And
Yeah.
then you could talk about it.
Yeah, and I think I would do that like not right away.
Yeah.
Do that when a DLC drops or something. Do that when it's getting ported to another platform. The plan, so yeah, it's coming out on Steam for sure, and maybe some of the other digital platforms like Itch or GOG. We'll see. Steam's the one we're guaranteed on right now, so it would start.
Doesn't
there.
have to be.
I have a Nintendo developer's license, but you have to do a separate application process to get it for Switch.
DLC confirmed.
Yeah. Well, kind of. So if we did a Switch port, I because I have no other games from the company, I would need to have the Steam as like an audition basically to get approval on the Switch. Which, based on some of the games I've seen, I think I'm definitely in the clear. You do that, and then yeah, for the Switch version, it's like, yeah, maybe we do full voice acting or whatever. Because I sent out the contracts today, and it's super awesome.
Woohoo.
But it's super partial right now. Would you have to hire a team to port the game to Switch? Oh no, I doubt it. Maybe. Can you buy it early, like support a Kickstarter? That's a good segue. The answer is, when the trailer drops and everything comes out, yeah, you could probably purchase it or wishlist it on Steam. That would be a thing you could do. You can also support the channel, all the creative projects, the Let's Playing and the game development, and yeah, just the things that get churned out by the channel. It's mostly those two right now. But you can support that on Patreon, patreon.com/getdaved. I'll put the link in a comment
We're
in the
very
description.
appreciative of our Patreons.
It's the term for a person who supports us on
Patronus.
Patreon is a Patronus.
Yes.
Yes. Because
Come on, I've read the books.
yeah, it really helps. This is like a super cynical thing also, but like a lot of the donations come in USD, and thanks to the Backstreet Boys reunion tour, the exchange rate in Canada is really strong, so it's like
Thank
That-
you
that-
so much.
that offsets the losses we had on the money we were using to pay for the game.
Because we have to buy things in USD. Which
Yeah.
is like tricky. Also.
Yeah, it helps a lot. there's a multiplying effect which helps, and it offsets the fact that, yeah, like we were paying for this out of savings I had, and I did suspect a market downturn, so I transferred them to a low risk assets, but you know, a 30% hit to the stock market is still gonna hurt. So yeah, that was tricky. Anyway, that's the spiel. That's the channel update. If you have any questions or anything, this is your option.
Your last minute.
Yeah. Well, we gotta wait for chat lag or anything. Renegade Sith, you came at a great time. The shape of your picture. It's just, yeah, just like hands coming out of like. Yeah. Thanks for sharing with us. Well, thanks for watching, guys. I hope it looked interesting. I hope it looked like I don't know, something that appeals to you. And again, this is like only half representative, but I'm just trying to show, like, I don't want to do spoilers because some people are really spoiler phobic. So
I feel like showing the testing area is a good way of like demonstrating how she moves, but not like this is exactly what it's gonna look like.
Not the plot. It's like, okay, so the whole big thing is that this guy, her father's gonna die, and it's just gonna be really crazy, and so she's gonna have to go on a journey, collect 2 halves of a medallion.
Yeah.
You know, one sec, I gotta write this down. This is the best idea I've ever had.
Oh boy. We're in trouble.
Yeah, see it in Devon, looks good. Yeah, thanks. This is largely for the people who are interested in how the sausage gets made, too. The sausage gets made.
That's when you know it's time to quit.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, yeah, it's getting a little late. The animations actually reminded me a lot of Bloodstained. Okay, so you remember when I mentioned that, like, I played Celeste and I was like, okay, I have to make my movement better. When Bloodstained dropped, I like Iga so much, and I saw Bloodstained drop and I was like, oh, he's making my game but with a massive budget. And I felt like kind of rattled at first because like, yeah, it looks great, and I sort of responded to that by being like, okay, well, I can't beat them on this and I can't beat them on that, but
when did
all right,
that
I'm
come
gonna
out?
Pardon me?
When did it come out?
Oh, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, and Curse of the Moon was a while ago. Ritual of the Night was kind of recently, I think late 2019 or 2020. And so I watched how Miriam moves and was like, okay, Reyna just has to move better than that. And so like the little slide Miriam does, it's like Reyna's roll, well, she bonked there, but like it's a little bit better when she has the sword. I can't show you that, but it's like, I think that feels a little bit better, and the way you can weave it into things feels a little bit better. So it's like I can only beat them on game feel, and there is a little bit of a stiffness. So, and yeah, like the way you can weave all the stuff together, the way she can just like use the walls as a source of offense and everything. It's like that's what I've got, and that's what I'm gonna push, because like the gothic backgrounds and everything they have in all the areas, it's like I don't have the time or money or resources to do all those things. So it's like, okay, we're gonna get them at that. What's the gravity set at? So I mentioned Celeste control schemes. Matt Thorson is really good at sharing stuff, and
I'm out.
Mrs. Gitte is going to bed.
I'm not a night person. This is already past my bedtime.
This is 4 hours past her bedtime. It's supper and then bed.
I'm a 5-year-old.
So
Good night.
And they also released the movement code for Celeste as well, which I perused. Most of the feel I got from Mega Man X, and then sort of challenging myself after Celeste. But one thing I did learn from going over the movement code is Celeste has ultra high gravity with an ultra low terminal velocity. Or the way he expressed it, he had a Twitter feed that I found out, like, or a series of Twitter posts that I found out about like just a few months ago, way after it mattered. But they have ultra high gravity that reduces at the peak of the jump, is how he visualizes it. So gravity changes based on her velocity, basically. So it goes as high as double and as low as a multiplier of 1 natural Earth gravity. For the record, in most video games, if you go with an acceleration of 9.81 meters per second squared, it's too floaty. You have to have something to drive your character to the ground faster. And then the Ascension harness is actually a really good, or the aerial harnesses are a really good example related to that, because in most platformers also, a character has to be able to jump about double their own height. In the case of Reyna, the platforming is done. She just needs to get her hips above something, because like pulling herself onto a surface is like a big part of the platforming. And it always bugged me that like Mario would fall to his death just because like he only got his knee above a ledge. And I always wanted to be like, let's grab it, man. Yeah, so that ties into it. The gravity changes when you have the aerial harness as well. You have technically a higher capacity for gravity, which in theory could allow for some really crazy Super Metroid-y style skips or circumventions, but there you have it. Wait, are you making a video game? Renegade Sith, where have you been? Yeah! All those other channel updates? Yeah, I've been making a video game for a long time. Check it out. This is a build. You can rewind if you want to see when I was actually playing it. The first part's a little dull and was retreading, but yeah. There's some mobility. You like, if you get used to the controls, which are very common, like if you've played Mega Man X, you will know exactly the motions your hand will be getting across the control panel. Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. What's the strategy for getting the word out of the game? This is part of it. I also have looked into getting a PR agency. Once I have a trailer ready, I'm going to try pitching it to publishers and see if that gets any traction, and pitching it to PR agencies. At first, I was opposed to the idea of a publisher. Now I am less so. If they were like, we're taking 85% of what's left after Steam's 30%, it'd be like, all right, that's a pretty bad deal. But, you know, if the math dictates it, right? If they could make it twice as popular and wanted less than half, then you look at it. Beyond that, channel's part of it. The various people I'm working with, part of it. Anyone I know, part of it. Stay away from EA. Oh, I'm not pitching to EA. They don't want me, trust me. Yeah. They hunt whales. Yeah, if you guys have ins with a publisher, just send me an email. Don't ever go to the Epic Game Store as an exclusive. Yeah, that came up in the Discord. There's also a channel Discord. Check out my YouTube channel if you want to know about it. There's a invite link so you can join it. Epic Game Store is like, okay, if they came to me and were like, okay, we'll give you $1 million for 1 year of exclusivity, that would have to be looked at. Like, honestly, you just can't not consider that. Although the flip side would be like, hey, they're willing to put in that kind of money, you know, maybe you can push a counter offer or something. Yeah, I would have a strong preference for not doing that, is what I will say about that. I'm not opposed to being on it, and they give you a larger cut, which is nice. But yeah, there's concerns. I don't think any particular store is really saintly. Maybe itch.io, they're kind of not a huge player, but like they're sort of in it from a very pro-developer point of view. But yeah, I mean, I don't really believe in the concept of like platform exclusivity because I don't know. The goal is to get people to play the game. Yeah. So that's a good thing. I'm wedded to Steam to do what's best for you. I'm also wedded to Steam. So yeah, that's why that's the first platform. And indeed, it is guaranteed to be coming out for Steam. Because, yeah, like I said, I've already got the store page. And yeah, then maybe we start pitching stuff. Yeah, like Mega Man. So I think the one difference between Mega Man, like X moves around very differently from stock Mega Man. But yeah, like the way you can flow one move to another. Yeah, that was really explicitly inspired by Mega Man X because I feel like that's something that's been missed in games that keep you on the move. Yeah. If I'm saying something over and over, it's because it's a big deal or someone else asked. Would your game be on PS4? So to get a PlayStation developer's license, I basically would need the game on Steam first, is my expectation. Maybe a trailer would be enough. But yeah, the goal is to get it out at least to the trailer phase, and then I would apply for both. Yeah, Sony does seem to be a bit more official, whereas Nintendo, this is just like my vibe from looking at the application process. Like the Sony seems much more corporate in nature. So yeah, I would expect a more paperwork heavy application, and like one of the things they want is like you have to have a static IP if you want to develop for PlayStation, and I'm sure there's probably a technical reason behind that, but it's like okay. Whereas Nintendo, it's just they're just like, yeah, show us what you got. So, but yeah, I have a Nintendo developer's license for 3DS and Wii U. Those are the ones you get by default. And then, yeah, there's a separate application process I would do once the trailer's ready so that I could show them the trailer and be like, hey, it's built in Unity. That can be ported to Switch if you give me a development license. Yeah, I have looked at other games. Like, there are games on the Switch store that anger me. And like when I see people put their game on sale for, one guy had his game on sale for 1 penny, and it's just like, have a shred of self-respect. Like, you're making a statement about what you think your game is worth. Like, yeah, a sale is a sale, but 1 penny? Come on, man. If your game comes out on the Wii U, I'll buy it for that. I won't, and I love the Wii U, and I love my game. Yeah, asset flips on there. Anyway, that's the plan for release targets. Like, the goal is to have it on as many platforms as possible. PS4, there's a good chance that by the time I'm ready to port it to that console, PS5 would be more plausible. But as I understand, there's pretty good backwards compatibility one generation. But yeah, Sony, you know, they might say, oh yeah, we only want new titles being developed for PS5 as of this date. Because yeah, the game is expected release on Steam late 2020, maybe a little bit later. We'll see. A lot, it depends when the money runs out. When we run out of money is when the game gets released. How about mobile? Over my dead body. A couple people have been like, yeah, Unity games are easy to put on mobile. It's like, I don't want anything to do with... I don't play or enjoy mobile games. And also, that is just a savage cut-through plagiarism rich world and a massive game store on either platform. That's... yeah. I'm not going anywhere near that. Yeah, FF Tactics on mobile, I believe, is a good version. When people ask me how do I get it, I recommend that to them. But working title of the game is Project Rana. The title will be released when the trailer drops. The control scheme doesn't look like it would port well to mobile. No, I don't see how. I mean, you never know. You could come up with some real gyroscopic, mind-bending ideas, but no, this is a game about like expressing yourself through the controller. And again, a lot of effort was put into flexibility so that you can be the person who just mashes and never dashes and just jumps around. Like this can be your experience of the game. Like I try to show really smooth integrations of all the different moves. Oh, I spent the charge too soon. These are just debug challenges, right? I mean, so you could be the person who does that, or you know, the game will allow it, combat will allow it. The difference is, you know, how smooth it could be. And yeah, I think I'm making something that's pretty silky smooth. So that's the strength I'm attempting to lean into. Just like Matt Thorson and Matt Makes Games did with Celeste, where it's like, that is not the best looking game ever. But for its style, it looks good. For what it's trying to accomplish, the visuals are really good for it. And I had one guy say, like, one friend be like, oh, it's kind of weird that you can release a game that looks like that these days. And I said back to him, it's like, well, you think about a game like Assassin's Creed, it's weird that they can release a game that controls like that these days. People key in on graphics, but like, you know, you take the floatiness or the, you know, the difficulty getting inputs triggered, and you imagine that in Celeste. Spider Grab is only sideways for simplicity. There were earlier versions where she shot it on an angle and could like dangle from the ceiling. I actually really like the animation because, again, I didn't want... Reina's not like the super powerful badass. She doesn't know Kung Fu. She can't deadlift 800 pounds. So if she spider grips off of the roof, she would just hang there because she's not strong enough to pull herself up with one arm. But no, it's only sideways for simplicity, because that one got a little bit weird when cardinal directions were added in. Diagonals were kind of cool. Straight up, like the Mega Man 4 wire was never in there. But diagonals and cardinals are in for dash and other things. Have you considered review copies for the media? Yeah, you bet. That's a really easy thing to do with Steam. You can generate keys and ship them off to people. And indeed, favors will be requested. If you, yeah. If you're a friend of mine, if we know each other, prepare for the bribe one day where it'd be like, yeah, I'll get you 2 liters of whiskey if you just tell everybody you know about it. Yeah. But I mean, at the flip side, you also want to act like this is something worth sharing. So there's not going to be begging. Maybe there will be begging. I don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah. You need to like kind of not think of it as like you're doing me this huge favor, like helping me peddle the snake oil. It's like, no, this is something cool and I want you in on sharing it. But yeah, I'm pulling out all the stops. I've tried. This is ironic because like as the years go by, where I'm like, I try not to ask for too many things, but then every time I do the update, I put in the request, or I mention the Patreon anyway. I've explicitly mentioned it once where it's like, hey, now's the time if you're thinking about it, when I quit my job and decided to go all in. And the response was unbelievable. Yeah. Gonna be tough to properly say thank you to capture it all. But anyway, yeah, when the rubber hits the road, when the game's coming out, when the final moment arrives, it's like, yeah, this is the most difficult thing I have ever done in my life, and the biggest thing. And like I directed a feature-length movie. Fun fact. Yeah. I played in a small theater. It's like I've done some big projects, but this is and I wrote it. But this is completely just several orders of magnitude beyond that in complexity. So yeah, we can thank you by making a big game or a good game. Yeah. Dave wrote and direct a couple things. Yeah, the indie dev. I mean the thing, which was such a transparent illustration of my mind. Yes, the thing where you can see the face of Dave, and yeah, and right around when he was about to become Fat Dave for a brief 2-year period. Not too fat, but a little fat. Yeah, I wrote and directed that. But like I don't really count that. That was just like that was for a 5-minute film festival. That said, I do think some of the jokes were funny. Yes, when the fated hour arrives. What's the name of the film? I don't speak of it. Yeah. Towel Man found a DVD of it a little while ago, or I think maybe his nephews found it or whatever, and they were watching it. We were both in it, and they thought it was so cool. And like you go back and like you watch your performance and everything, and like sometimes you only see your own faults, and you go and you're just like, I'm simultaneously incredibly proud and incredibly ashamed. Yeah, what is it? We don't speak of it. Yeah, well, it's like, it was a comedy, and it played well with the audience. But I'd be too self-conscious to go any further with that. It was made, yeah, for a specific event, is what I'll say about it. So like, it wouldn't necessarily. It would need to have stuff redone to play well with a larger audience. Yeah, Adam Driver doesn't watch anything he's in. Harrison Ford doesn't. It's like, yeah, I just, yeah. Even for something like voice acting, which for the demands of this game, is something I could probably do, which like might sound cocky, but like I've been the lead in plays and stuff. And I'm familiar with like recording and everything. And so it's like for the very minimal needs of the game, I could do it, but just for the reason of like not having to wear the multiple hats and like alternate between viewing the game through the critical lens as I assemble it, and then like, you have to do the exact opposite of that when you're in the more artistic role. It's like you can't be critical of yourself. You have to be just totally engrossed in what you're doing. I'm as self-conscious as Harrison Ford about my own work. So yeah, that's, if the flow seems off, just read the chat. Yeah, anyway, rapidly flipping roles and then having to look back at your stuff and like you put the critical hat back on. It's just no good. So yeah, it's like I'm getting voice actors to do stuff. Yeah, getting all sorts of things. Yeah, re-hating your own voice. For me, whether or not, sometimes I watch my own Let's Plays, usually in a critical way, to be like, okay, how am I doing? Do I think this is a good Let's Play? Is it accomplishing like the goals I have with the channel, for it to be like more laid back, a little bit more introspective, just like this sort of chill thing? Sometimes, depending on the mic, I find it makes a big difference. But there's like the ones that sound exactly like how I hear my own voice. I'm always like, I'm sick of that man. I don't want to hear him speak again. Do you not feel that way when you edit your own OPs? Brawl Guy, can you clarify what you mean when you say that way? Like hitting my own voice? In which case the answer is usually kind of. Although when you're editing, like again, you're not, like it's still very technical at that point. Yeah, hitting my own voice. Less so because I'm not really listening to it. I'm looking for like edit points and where to put breaks and that sort of thing. Yeah. Anyway, if there's any other questions, I'll answer them. Yeah, the other catch with watching your own performance, Brawl Guy, is like the medium sometimes changes. So the aforementioned play, I had the lead roll in. There was a recording of it, and I watched about 1 minute of it and then turned it off because, you know, that was a stage production. As soon as it's on camera, like that's a different medium, and it just didn't work. And I got no satisfaction of it, and it was just like almost frustrating because, you know, everything is, you're overacting now because the camera just like picks what it's looking at and zooms in, and so you have to be more subtle for it, whereas on a stage you have to sort of move a different way so that people in the back row can see you and you can interact, like you can make eye contact with people and see how stuff's playing, and so you work with the crowd you have, and all that's lost. Like in camera, yeah, camera's very different. Do I have advice on voice acting? There is a subscriber. I don't know if he wants me to mention his name. I could ask him. He's on the channel Discord, but who is a voice actor. And he became a voice actor. He mentioned to me, like, he kind of got inspired to make the final push for it when I put out the video being like, I quit my job, I'm doing it. And he was like, I'm going all in, and is now doing stuff at Funimation. And so he did some stuff, and then I asked, like, hey, do you have friends? And he's been super clutch and done all the work. Do you hope the speedrun community picks up your game, perhaps run a GDQ? Yeah, so I was mentioning before measures of success, like how do you feel like you've personally succeeded as the game of success? Yeah, that's another benchmark. Like, and that's been a semi-conscious decision as I do things, like for reasons that will be clear once you play the game or start understanding the story. The way the game is saved is incredibly complicated and was very difficult to wrap my head around. And because of that, while I'm doing it, I'm thinking like, oh, I just know a speedrunner could crack this wide open. Like you're just doing something so elaborate that it's like, there's gonna be a hole in the armor. So from that point of view, it could be a good game for speedrunning, and the emphasis on controls and everything, yeah, it could be good. Yeah, it would be absolutely amazing. I have thought about it as like, would I be one of the guys that goes and like hangs out on the couch during a speedrun, or would I be too self-conscious watching them find bugs and exploiting them, or would I just be having a panic attack from being like, it finally happened? Because sometimes the burden of like the emotional hit of victory hits harder. I mean, you watch The Last Dance, that first championship Michael Jordan won, and he just breaks down crying, and then again with the last one, he just falls face down on the ground and breaks into tears, because it's like, you hedge your emotions for defeat, but not victory, and sometimes that just is overwhelming. So yeah, it would be super cool if someone played a GDQ. I have no idea how I'd handle it. I hope it does. I am trying to make a game that's really compatible with that. Underneath the hood, there is code in place to accommodate that. There's timers that you can't see but are running. I don't think I have a button to turn them on. Let's just check something real quick. Yep. Yeah, you can see here's a little bit what's going on underneath the hood. Don't worry about that 59 frames per second. The game takes, most frames take 1 millisecond to render on my computer, so I got lots of room. That 59 it has to do with a thing that happens when that gets drawn. But yeah, anyway, that can turn on the timer if certain debug settings are set up in the Unity player. When you see GDQ, you think of Get Dave Quest. I must patent, or I have to trademark that so we can have a copyright spat. Pay more attention to taking this than to commentating. Well, I feel like I wonder if the way to do it in my mind would be to treat it like a Let's Player. But you know what? Let's cross that bridge when we get to it. What music do I like? I like the soundtrack to this game. Actually, sometimes I get sick of listening to it. It's been a long time. My favorite band is Arcade Fire. And the last song I listened to was Into the Storm by Banners, which is also a very good it'd be a good match for the game. Yeah, streaming chews up a little processor power, no doubt. Can you, oh yeah, sorry Alan, I missed that. Can you short hop like you can in Castlevania? Not exactly. I think Guacamelee had a literal short hop coded. This has variable jump height like in a Mario game. There is when you have the aerial harness equipped, which we do, which gives us the nice high jump, the minimum jump duration height is equal to one of these. So if you tap it, that's just the height she needs to clear it if it's a corner. So that is a decent comparable to a short hop, but I would say technically it's probably different because the Castlevania short hop, I think there's like different tiers of jump height and you get rounded into them, and that would be the lowest one. So that's my answer. It would be no with an asterisk, but it's no, but it's close to a yes. Yeah, all the motion values are really carefully chosen. Because again, the movement code for the game, I rewrote. I think this is the 5th version of it, and it has like all the lessons I've learned and then put into a way better coding framework, which is, yeah, super awesome. Underneath the hood, Rain is tight. That could sound bad. That does sound bad. The control scheme for Reyna is programmatically elegant, and it's not bragging, that's just what you get with 5 rewrites. Yeah, did you try to implement a way of Mega Man button mashing? Oh, yeah, well, 3-hit combo, man. I'm not showing combat today, but yeah, when she gets the sword, yeah, you can use the 3-hit combo. The way I mash in Mega Man in like 3 pulses would be semi-compatible with the game. There's input buffering, so you could mash slower. I'm trying to keep some accessibility, well, a lot of accessibility concerns. For example, you can, if you have a PlayStation 4 or Xbox controller, or, I mean, you might be able to do it with a Joy-Con, you can play the game one-handed. It takes some acrobatics, but the controls are very deliberately not used that way. Not used in a way that's like, I don't want to use the word not complicated, because the complexity comes from how you connect the movements and simpler modifiers. Yeah, phrasing, Sterling Archer. Like, for example, I think of the game in my mind, FF15 does this poorly. I think of it as a game that does it poorly. Like, you go into combat and you're basically holding down defend and maybe like jumping around with the sword warp thing, and then you're holding down attack. But like, the game is super complicated, and it's like you hold this button, you long press, it does one thing, you tap, it does another. For all, 4 bumper buttons, the 4 face diamonds, the D-pad has functions attached to it for like cycling through stuff, and all of that seemed really inefficient to me. And so yeah, the control scheme was reworked over and over and over, and yeah, now is simpler to just have like all the little things. Like, yeah, this used to be tied to a button, now it's like the back step is now down and defend. Holding it gives you the repulsor, holding it in any context. Did you have to code differently for computer controls and Xbox controller? Was it difficult? There is a plugin I am using called InControl, available in the Unity Asset Store. There's a lot of good stuff on the Unity Asset Store. And so InControl handles that. And so it functions basically like a driver. I make my stuff work with InControl, and it makes it work with the target stuff. You do have to do a little bit beyond that. One thing that bugs me is the guy who's very committed to the PlayStation controller, which is basically the Super Nintendo controller. Everyone's been iterating on that idea, and that's the idea. Don't screw around with it. That's the one. I like the PlayStation 4 controller the best of any controller in the world, though, and so I use it. A lot of games assume you're using an Xbox controller, and so they'll show like, press Y to open this, and it's like, no, I want it to say triangle. So I have some stuff in there so you can set. I haven't actually coded this. The plan is to put it in there. This is totally the sort of thing that would be cut on release day and put in later, but the plan is to do it. Maybe that's why no one does it. Have it so you can just specify your controller template. So it can show keys, or it can show triangle, square, cross, circle, or it can show, the letters of the Xbox controller, that sort of thing. But the plugin takes care of most of the annoying stuff. What do I think post-game support will be like? Do I think supporting the game will be more work than making it? No. I think it will be less pleasant. The goal is not to have a ton of bugs at release, which is why like everything you're seeing is a giant debugging environment. And right now, let me check Jira. Localhost 80. Let's see how many known bugs are in the build right now. I'm looking right now. There's 3 known bugs. That's not really a bug. That one is. That's very minor. That one's definitely a bug. Okay. So of the ones I've discovered, there's 3 bugs in the entire build right now, which is all of the functionality in the game. We'll say all with an asterisk. If I build new things, there will be new functionality that needs to be coded, and like not all boss fights will be the same, and not all enemies are the same. So, but they're all based on common frameworks. So hopefully I nipped a lot of them in the bud. I have it set up to, well, it is coded in a way that is easily compatible with it, with including it, because it would be far easier to code it in such a way that would be incompatible with it, and then I'd have to rip stuff up later. I have basically 2 ways I can implement it, and InControl has 1 built in, is the full answer to it. But yeah, I recognize we backpedaled pretty quickly there. I did the Muppets thing, the 2 critic Muppets, where they're like, I loved it. Yeah, it was really good. I thought it was okay. We watched it at least. Oh, I didn't really care for it. It was terrible. I hated it. Boo! Yeah, we had that progression. All right. Yeah, I love to see the kind of tech they come up with it. Yeah, advanced movement tech. I have more intended to put in there, but a lot is explicitly put into the game. One thing it's a tiny thing. A pet peeve of mine is like you watch an Ocarina of Time speed run and they like are walking backwards to save time because Link's backwards walk is faster or his side jumping walk is faster or rolling. And to me, that's insane that you could get somewhere faster doing shoulder rolls because than like jogging. It's absolutely just in like the disconnect from reality. It's upsetting to me. So I do like speed tests. I literally pull out a stopwatch app on my phone and just like clock how long it takes Reina to move this way, how long it takes to move that way, and make sure that like the cool ways of moving are the best. Ocarina of Time is like the example of the worst movement tech ever, and Super Mario 64 is the example of like the best movement tech ever. Celeste is really good too, but like where the way you move fastest is also by far the coolest and the best feeling way to move, linking all these jumps together and everything. So I have plans. I have a ticket literally named, let's see what it's called, Add Advanced Movement Tech. Yeah, so rolling off of a dash jump, for example, would give you something like that. There's ways to use the repulsor already to preserve your dash speed over a very small stretch. And there's certain jump heights. If you watch really closely, we need a room big enough for it, but let's see. Yeah, this room's too small. If you watch Reina in a large room do a speed jump or a dash jump, her speed bleeds off. Let's see if we can do that here. Yeah, okay, we'll have some room here. So it's like if you do the full jump, she loses most of her speed and goes back to the default before she hits the ground. So you have to do shorter hops to really keep things moving, and that gives you more opportunities to change the trajectory of your movement. And then if you want to hold, you can work stuff in there. You can grab walls with the spider grip and let go before you're done getting there. Like there's a lot of things put in there to give. I know the map's ugly, that's just a placeholder. There's a lot of things you can do to really get good flow. So, oh man, you want to see a showcase of entertaining bugs? I have one I made an animated GIF out of. It's not great. I'll see if I can track it down and I'll drop it in the Discord after this. Was it the story or the gameplay mechanics that was your first idea for the game? So I'm going to backpedal by saying I have no shortage of game ideas, and I have a Google Drive where I keep them all. And yeah, I have a folder for each separate game idea. And I put story ideas, whatever's most relevant. So for this one, I wanted to do a Metroidvania. I wanted to do strong combat in it because I think Metroid, this is how we say it, I think Metroid games don't have great combat. Metroid Prime is probably the best example, but just the way everything works, I feel like there's certain slowness and stiffness to the action. Like a lot of fights, for example, boil down to just sitting still and shooting missiles, for example, or waiting for your moment to sit still and shoot missiles. Like you think of the Mother Brain fight, right? In Super Metroid, or even the first Metroid. You just find a sweet spot and let her rip. So I didn't like that. So I wanted to have combat that felt more like Mega Man X, but with melee, so that more like Symphony of the Night, more like a little bit of Guacamelee. Yeah, those are probably three of the bigger influences. There's a moment in Mega Man X6 where you're getting swarmed by like the weird robots with tentacles that like abduct your buddies. I forget what they're called, but there's dozens coming at you at once, and they're respawning at an extremely rapid rate. And I remember getting into a fight in that room, and I became the Kwisatz Haderach. I saw time spread out before me. Past, present, and future became one. I lost where I was and was only fighting the enemies. And ever since that, that's sort of like been my gold standard of like just have just lots of targets you can pick, lots of abilities to go after them, just tons of ways to move, and have it all be about how you're simultaneously dodging and attacking and bobbing and weaving. And then seeing like Mega Man 12, are we at 11? I don't know, the one that came out just recently, and the way like a lot of the mini bosses have so many hit points, and you're just like sitting still and pounding into them, and then moving, and then sitting still and pounding into them. It's like that was like the polar opposite for me. And so I want a game where like you are moving and everything is worked into it. Yeah, the game is, at the gameplay side of things, it's about moving. So that was the gameplay inspiration. And then the story side that came up was I wanted to tell Orpheus and Eurydice in a different context, which is a myth a lot of things are based on. And then from that started, okay, well, write what you know. So started putting in thoughts I'd have. I made a comment about the story inspiration for the game. I mentioned like an essay I wrote in university. I took one film studies class as an elective, and I really liked it. So much so that I recommended Talman take it, and then he got a totally different prof who was terrible. He hadn't seen like any movies in the last 20 years. And it's like, and he was like the negative stereotype of what people would think of if you were to take a film studies class. Whereas the prof I had, she was amazing. She was also Polish, and occasionally there would be communication issues. And that makes it sound like more negative than it was. But sometimes she'd just be like, oh, allow me to re-say that. And the one that kicked me was the final paper for the course. I interpreted, and many others in the class interpreted as, write a paper on a movie we did not watch in class. And what she actually meant was write a paper on a movie we did watch in class. And so I have this really crazy, like I watched Run Lola Run like 15 times. I watched it like 9 times in one night. I just had it going on the side while I was writing the paper over and over and over. And I had all these thoughts on the nature of cause and effect and repetition and the way you see clocks and things, and the way like you hear one thing and it's an echo for how the movie ends, and like all these things about like the way events tie in together, and the concept of a golden path running through it, this causality chain they create in Run Lola Run, you know, where she jumps down the stairs in the last iteration and gets where she wants. So like all these crazy ideas about like how things happen. And then I found out I couldn't use that paper, and then I had one night to write the term paper. And so I wrote about violence in A Clockwork Orange, which, if you're familiar with the movie, is a very easy subject. So I had like, the paper I was most proud of in my life, and it just sat there. And I don't know what happened to it. I kept my university file, so maybe it's on my hard drive somewhere. But all the ideas have just been sitting in my subconscious now for however many years since then. And so when it came to writing the story, that's what started coming out. And a fun fact is the game was like originally going to be more artsy fartsy until I decided that it would be more appropriate for a game jam. The concept, but it was going to be like typographic with like the story written into the environment around you, which sounds really cool until you realize that in English we only really read left to right, and when you start including backtracking and stuff like that, it makes it very difficult to hold up, which is why I think that's more of a game jam idea. But that led to some interesting innovations. And that's the story of where the story came from. And one last thing I'd say about it is Gabriel Byrne, who's an actor, he was in The Usual Suspects. He made a comment in an interview where he said, he was quoting something, but he said, all actors play themselves, which, yeah, I've also thought about that. And so you could make the case also that all writers write themselves, which sounds like really, I feel like I'm being pretentious when I say it, but it's like, you know, the story, I don't know. It's kind of, yeah, it's got a summary. It ended up having a whole bunch of stuff based on those things that were rattling around in my mind that I've sort of just outlined, like this myth about loss and suffering, and then this these ideas of causality. Yeah. Have you seen Dragon Quest Your Story? It's a retelling of DQ5. Yes, and I thought it was charming, and it moved. I think it would have been better as a 12 episode miniseries, each an hour long, but I thought it was charming and I really liked it. Yeah, every painting is a portrait of the artist, not the sitter. Yes, exactly. So the reason why when people ask, like, did you start with the inspiration of the story? It's like, well, it's kind of complicated because all these things are bouncing around. So when you start typing out a script, this is what you have. And there's a quote I like from Jimmy Carson, which is, what you have, you will use. I mean, or you think back to like the conversation you would always hear going through school, being like, when am I ever going to use this? Or will I ever use this? And the answer is, if you understand it, no. And if you do, yes. So it's like all these things are what I have to work with. But anyway, back to Kill Raven's comment. Dragon Quest Your Story? Yeah. And I think it's great. I really, really, really liked the animation in it as well. And I also, I had a fun moment because I watched it and it was like, man, in real life, I totally married Bianca, which was great because Bianca is one of my favorite Dragon Quest characters. So it was a nice little touching moment. I always think it's funny when people in the comment section are like, oh, Mrs. Get Daved is so sweet. It's like, well, I mean, she's a bit like Bianca is a better description. We're just like a little sassy. And by a little, I mean, yeah. She'll let you know. But that's, yeah, that's what I like. All right, I think the questions are dying down. If someone wants to do me a favor, they can post in the channel Discord. Just at me and tell me to post the bug GIF. I felt very ashamed. Oh, I have another question. Jeez, I gotta get to bed at some point. I have to work on this game tomorrow. You don't want to meet the CEO of Reclamation Games, man. He's a real bad time. What are my thoughts, feelings on fighting games? I feel like I'm not really qualified to talk about that because I don't play them really that often. I played Street Fighter 2 a bit, not as many as a lot of people. I mean, but I played it a bit, and I played Gundam Wing Endless Duel a lot, which is a Street Fighter 2 clone. And that's largely been it. Oh, and I guess I play Smash. Though not like I used to. I played a lot of Melee. So I feel like I'm not really an expert on the subject, but I like a lot of what they do. and there, I don't want to say there was an inspiration from some of that. I like this week, which has only been 2 days, or maybe it was on the weekend, but extremely recently, yeah, I was playing Smash to look at how they did stuff. I draw a lot of inspiration from them for like how animations get woven and stuff. For animation, I go to Kingdom Hearts 2, which has insane animation. It is mind-boggling how good it is. And that it came out like 15 years ago is just ridiculous. Just it's still, even Kingdom Hearts 3 isn't as good. Like the level of care and detail in that is ridiculous. And they were doing stuff, yeah, a decade before other people were. But anyway, do that for animation, and I watch Smash a lot for combat animation and how things are woven together. Because fighting games are really good because they need really responsive controls. And so that's not always compatible with animation. So I watch that closely. And I think about like them for comboing and that sort of stuff. And there's interesting like concepts of, yeah, how do you make a game fun? I think is one of the most, through combat, is one of the subjects tackled really heavily and expertly by fighting games. But that said, I don't love one-on-one competitive games because generally speaking, I would play it with friends and I want to be on the same team as my friends by and large. There's only a couple friends I like being directly competing with. And usually it's if they're a lot better at the thing than I am. Like I played hockey one-on-one with my friend Jay, who was extremely good. And yeah, and he's like, yeah, one of the few guys I would do that with. I remember trying to catch him, and after like 2 strides, I was keeping up with him, and my legs were on fire, and I was like, oh no. He is much faster than I am. I cannot keep this up for 1 more stride. Anyway, Skullgirls cemented why I don't play fighting games, but Skullgirls is brilliant. And one of the animators for it, possibly the lead, Mariel Cartwright, has a GDC talk about how she animated Skullgirls. And it is, when I was thinking about animation in fighting games and how by nature they are not on the same team and you have to reconcile that, her GDC talk is one of the best talks of all time on any subject in game development. I think she only did a 30-minute one, and it's friggin' brilliant. And if you have any, even passing interest in the subject, you should check it out. You can probably just find it on YouTube going GDC Skullgirls. Let's check GDC. I'll do it right now. GDC Skullgirls. Yeah, making fluid and powerful animations for Skullgirls. Yeah, 21-minute talk, and it's insane. Yeah, Mariel Cartwright is a genius. But yeah, I haven't played it. I've taken insane notes from I've rewatched that talk 3 times and taken notes every time and incorporated what she's doing. All right, moving back. Married Deborah from Dragon Quest V? Absolutely no. I mean, I did it once in a playthrough just to see, and no, at no point did she really soften up. All right. Yeah, I think we're winding down. I'm winding down, but I enjoyed this. Thanks for talking about my game for 95 of the 103 minutes we've been streaming. Hope you enjoyed your feature-length movie directed by Get Daved. Deborah in Dragon Quest V gets humanized more by the end. More? She gets humanized more. Mary and Bianca. That's the moral of the story with Dragon Quest V. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you want to support the channel, there's always the option. You can just watch the videos and stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. You know the drill. But patreon.com/getdaved is available. And yeah, I'm looking forward to showing you more of the game. Next time we'll probably pick up a little further on. I like to do a little bit of a recap of what we showed before to, just in case someone missed the previous thing. One guy didn't know I was working on a game. I've been making channel updates for years. But yeah, we'll show combat next time, and hopefully a trailer drops soon after, and you guys can see a bit about the story. And I don't know, whatever is chosen to be revealed at that time. And you can see the cover art for the game, which I think is amazing. Leandro Franci is an amazing artist. I'm really lucky I got to work with him. And I don't know, just all sorts of cool stuff that's being held back. So yeah, thanks for... Yeah, sadly not everyone watches those. It's okay. There's a lot of people on this planet who don't watch my stuff, and I'm not offended. Anyway, yeah. Glad you guys were interested in the process that's been going on, and I'll see you all in the next Let's Play. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you all very much. Yeah, I'm ending on that note.